How to make money growing wheat? That's the question we're asking. We're getting great answers from Lee Lubbers in this episode of XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve.
Welcome to XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve podcast, where real farmers share real insights and real results to help you improve your farming operation. And now, here's your host, Damian Mason.
Hey there, welcome to another fantastic episode of XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve. I've got a great one for you today because you know what? We're talking to Lee Lubbers. I always love talking to Lee because we talk about the business stuff. We talk about all kinds of cool things. Lee just got an award. He is the South Dakota high wheat producer, 138.35 bushels per acre. That's with the National Association of Wheat Growers, NAWG. I spoke to their conference about a decade ago when the whole gluten craze was going, anti-gluten craze just began. So I like the whole thing. I like talking about wheat. Lee, we're talking about your wheat evolution. You've been doing this. You're from South Dakota. Wheat has been something that you've looked out and seen in the field since the time you climbed out of your crib. I said, can you make money growing wheat? And you said before I hit the record button, you said, we wouldn't be doing this if we weren't. So there's a conception, or I'm sorry, a perception out there that wheat's tough to make money on. Our friend Matt Miles says, I can't justify growing wheat if it's not over $7 a bushel. And you said, yeah, because he's got the irrigation cost. How do you make money growing wheat?
We strive to be a low-cost producer. Even with the yields that we are getting, our goal is to be a low-cost producer. So we're trying to dial in on the practices and the products where we can maximize our ROI. So our yields have been going up, cost per bushel is going down.
Yeah. So that's the way with everything. I mean, obviously, if you're getting 250 bushel corn versus 150 bushel corn, your cost per bushel goes down because you're maximizing the utilization of resources, et cetera, et cetera. But you weren't exactly out there blowing money unnecessarily 30 years ago. So you've always kind of been keeping an eye on your inputs. What changed?
We just started looking at wheat differently. In the 1980s, late 1980s, when we got started, we started to do some winter wheat behind soybeans, and nobody was doing that. Everybody was wheat and summer fallow, with the philosophy that you've got to let it lay dormant and then fallow, and then 2 years to get a crop. We're like, no, we're not doing that. So that's how we kind of made our baby steps in the no-till, was with trying to figure out how to get wheat into the ground behind the combine. And then we just started looking at, okay, we're getting this for bushels. How can we get more? And then when we really started looking at the nature of wheat and what it needs throughout the stages, that's where we really started gaining by leaps and bounds, is when we really started looking at the plant. Not plant it and forget it. That was not going to keep us raising wheat. We had to pay attention to the plant and see what it was going to be needing coming up.
So what's interesting is growing up in Indiana, I had never been to South Dakota, North Dakota, any of those western states. And I got told as a little farm boy that, yep, bunch of those places, they only get one crop every 2 years because there's no rain. We don't have that problem in Indiana. We get 40 inches of precipitation. And you just said it was still the practice to leave land fallow to gain moisture. And I still know there's places like I've been to Morrow, Oregon, where they definitely have to do that because they get no rain. But you went to no-till. You and I recorded one of the first episodes we recorded 3 years ago was about your switch to no-till. It wasn't because you're a zealot. It wasn't because you're organic. It's because conservation of moisture was number one reason, because of where you are in Gregory, South Dakota. Your number two reason, you said, was because of manpower. You want to do as many acres as you can with as few of people, because it's you, your brother, and a couple of employees. And now you just brought up another one. It allowed you, by switching to no-till and then preserving moisture, it allowed you to get a crop every year. That seems to me like a doubling of income.
Yeah, it made a huge difference. The biggest challenge was at that time, there was hardly any equipment out there for no-till and trying to get it where we could get the seed in the ground effectively to raise the best crop. So we've evolved a long ways there. with what we can do because equipment has changed. And but really, we got a lot more dialed in on our actual practices of prepping for seeding, the actual seeding, and every step all the way through harvest. We just got a lot more dialed in what we're doing. And even in our area, like this year, we raised an exceptionally good wheat crop. It was the highest farm average we've had so far in the history of our operation. We're very proud of that.
Yeah. And by the way, the person listening to this, you didn't get 138.35 bushels on every acre. That was your submitted. That was your acreage that you did for the contest, but you still did the biggest wheat yield you've ever done in your 30 years or so, 35 years of farming.
Yeah, exactly. We had numerous landlords when we told them what on our share acres, what we got, they were just like, wow. They were just ecstatic with it. Even got a lot of thank you notes from landlords that we've worked with for a lot of years. They were very proud of that. So that makes us feel pretty good.
Was it weather? I mean, how much of it's weather? How much of it's weather? How much of it's you?
Weather is always our wild card. We never know really what it's going to be. Even this year, we had a little bit of a challenge. We had a late season frost, and that did come back. It did cost us some yield. We could see that in the heads, how they developed.
So the wheat started taking off. It's April and May, and then you get whacked, what, mid-May or something?
We actually got hit at Feeks 3, Feeks 4. We were just getting ready to start applying herbicide, and we were really dry right at that time. And normally, if you get a freeze, then your wheat's going to turn black and lay in the ground. And we kept waiting for it to turn black and fall on the ground, and it didn't. It was, you never know really how frost damage is going to affect you. And so we held off a few days to spray. Then we got hit with, we actually got wind and rain, about 10 days of wind and rain. We ended up getting about 5 to over 6 inches of rain. And that's really what made our crop. And then we got dry again. When we were flowering, we had wheat on ridges actually starting to burn again. It was starting to run out of moisture. And then we got a nice rain over about a 3-day period when we were getting into late milk and early dough. So we had some challenges there, but we came through with a good crop. So like I said, weather is always our wild card, always.
Mm-hmm. All right. So the journey was, first off, you stopped doing fallow. You switched to no-till. That helped you preserve moisture. Do your wheat acres still go following soybeans? Is that pretty much the practice at Lubbers Farms?
We do part of it on soybean stubble, and we do a percentage also wheat on wheat. We do 2 years wheat on wheat, and we run coaxium wheat currently behind those wheat acres. And that's been working really well for us.
I don't know what that, for the person like me that doesn't.
It's a new chemistry. We have ran Clearfield wheat prior, and now we've switched to coaxium. It's a new chemistry. So we can take care of the volunteer wheat or any cheatgrass with a herbicide application. And you have to be very precise in it. You have to do it by the label, by the book. That's where you see the real benefit from it. Mm-hmm. The technology is great for us on wheat acres. Traditionally on wheat, we would figure a 10 to 15% minimum yield drag for doing that, but we do it in part of our acres. With coaxium,
do you get the yield drag because of fertility? Do you get that yield drag because if I go wheat on wheat, is it fertility or is there some new disease that I'm getting? Why would it be? I mean, that's a pretty significant.
You're taking a higher risk on disease because you're going wheat on wheat.
Yep.
Higher risk of insects infecting you with diseases. You're getting from the residue, especially in heavy residues, we're getting into higher yields, what they call an allelopathic effect from the residue that can hold your seedlings back as it's coming through all that residue. It actually hurts your seedlings coming in contact with that residue.
Yep.
And so there are some variables there. And then with Beyond, when we sprayed that, when you sprayed out your volunteer wheat, it would turn yellow and it'd take 2-3 weeks to show. And it's like you made it sick, but it's not totally dead. And we knew that was holding us back. Where with the coaxium, when we spray that, it looks like you hit it with a cord Roundup. I mean, in 5 to 7 days, other than the coaxium wheat, everything is dead brown. Okay. So I think that has been a factor for eliminating yield drag. And we're getting better we know we have to manage very intensively on our wheat on wheat acres. A very high level of management because of the risk of the residue, diseases, the volunteer, etc. We can't miss a step, especially in the first 2 months. We cannot miss a step.
So when we talk about you having huge yields and then your wheat evolution and to make money with wheat, the person that says, all right, because wheat seems to me, like we always sometimes joke on XtremeAg that soybeans get treated like, a second-class citizen kind of thing because everybody loves to grow corn. Wheat, there's this perception that you just go out there and drill yourself some wheat and then, maybe hit it with some nitrogen and then spray it once. You manage it more intensively to make the money. What are you doing differently now than you did even just 10 or 20 years ago?
Our use of PGRs has really evolved.
Plant growth regulator because the wheat would get too tall? Because why do you need a plant growth regulator?
We're using PGRs in the sense of initiating triggers in the plant for early growth. And then also our use of growth regulators have entered the picture, depending on the year. That's all dictated by our environment, what we're going through in weather at the time. And that's saying plant growth regulators, you're into cytokinins and auxins. You're into promoting plant growth, cell division, giving it that boost. So those are earlier. And then when you get from after herbicide application to jointing, that's when it's growth regulator. It's a narrow window and it's very precise, very specialized. You're actually doing the opposite. You are compacting the plant and thickening the nodes. We actually can physically shorten the height of our plant 1 to 2 inches. But we cannot do it when we're in an environment where it's getting dry or we have some heat and dry coming because we can actually burn our wheat. So it depends on the year whether we use that as a management tool.
So plant growth regulators go on at when?
PGRs can go on. They can go on in your seed treatment at a specified rate. They can go on at green up. They can go on at your herbicide pass in your like up to Feeks 4, Feeks 5. Growth regulators. A lot of people, they throw out the term that like Palisade is that's a PGR. No, that's a growth regulator. It's actually your plant growth PGRs. They are create gibberellin in the plant and they're fostering growth, where if you do a growth regulator, they're actually classed as a gibberellin acid inhibitor. You're doing the exact opposite effect. So when you do these are at 2 total different times.
What about the fertility? Because the answer, you and I did a recording about increasing the protein content of your wheat because you get a premium for doing so. And the answer, a lot of people would think was, throw more nitrogen at it. Well, you can spend yourself right out of any premium you're getting for a protein boost. The person that says, well, Lee gets big yields on wheat because he just goes out there and blows too much money on fertility. And you say, no, we're a low-cost producer. So the answer isn't just pouring fertility to it.
No, we are not. We have not increased our fertility rates in the last 5 years. And we've actually reduced them a little bit. We're just putting it on. Our timing is better and a more balanced approach. And that's starting from when we seed our wheat all the way through the broadcast. And we do dry application where some people think in high management wheat, you have to be all liquid and stream bar and multiple passes.
Right.
Like, okay, you do you. We wanted to try to make it work with dry applications, and we are.
So you're doing that all at, you're not flinging it out there. Your winter wheat, you do all winter, no spring, correct?
We're all 100% winter wheat.
All right. So right now the wheat in your fields is 4 inches tall.
Actually, just germinated. Oh. That's the joys of South Dakota.
Okay, so you
planted it, and
so hopefully we don't get too many blizzards and freezing temperatures. So is it safe to think you've got adequate moisture?
We were bone dry. We planted all of our wheat. It laid there. Nothing was germinating. In the last 10 days, we got 70 hundredths to an inch. So it's finally germinating. Wheat, we look at it, it's like a cat that has 9 lives. Mm-hmm. So in a good year, we're going to use 5 or 6 of them. In a bad year, we're going to use all 8 or 9. Mm-hmm. You're going to use them up. All 9, you're not going to raise a crop. That doesn't happen very often. So a lot of years, we do not have the luxury of good fall growth. The years we do, then we change our management plan and we tailor for that. But this year, it's we could tell with Mother Nature, it's just, let's get it germinated so we can vernalize this winter so that we actually have a wheat crop, and then we'll start managing it more intensively in the spring. If we would have got it up out of the ground, we would have been out there in the field and doing a fall pass, which is unheard of in our area, to do that prior to dormancy, because we feel that's setting the stage for the winter time and for when it breaks dormancy in the spring.
So if you have the right, we're recording this on November 21st. So if you get the right, which a lot of times it's pretty damn cold and nasty this time of year, but you get no freeze for no hard freeze here for the next few days, next week. Your wheat will get up to be a few inches tall, and that's what you probably want that.
No, actually, I don't think it'll spike through this year.
Okay.
Our temperatures were hitting 35, 40 highs for the day, 20 at night. Okay. Growth is really slow. We probably won't see it spike through. It'll look like spring wheat in the spring.
So the struggle, though, is it's not going to die. It's going to be fine, but it doesn't. 4 inches. If you had 4 inches of growth, that helps you hold a lot of the snow, which then helps your moisture snowpack hold for your moisture for come spring. So this might harm you come spring on the moisture.
Yeah, that's why we're no-tilling. Conserve every ounce that we can.
Got it.
Yep.
Hey, I want to ask you another question about the money and the business side of it. Before I do that, we were talking about fertility a little bit ago. I want to remind you that Nature's is a business partner here with XtremeAg, and Nature's is focused on providing you fertility products that you can apply at periods of influence. You know what? Putting the product where it needs to be, when a plant can utilize it, is going to help your economics. We're in a low commodity price environment. We might be here for a while. So you know what? You better get really smart about your inputs. Nature's can help you target periods of influence within your crop. It'll enhance your crop yield. It'll decrease the plant stress. And most importantly, it'll boost your farm's ROI. Go to natures.com to learn more about the products they have. Fertility powered by BioK technology. All right. On the money side of it, you don't spend a bunch of money on fancy seed. It's like wheat's the one thing that's not got GMO. It's not. So you're talking about low cost producer. You're not saving money on wheat. You're not buying your wheat any cheaper than the guy down the road. I don't suppose. Are you?
We're paying the same price the other guy does.
Yeah. And then seed treatment. What's your seed treatment strategy?
We want to load it up seed treatment. We do not plant what they call naked seed. We want multiple modes of chemistry on, fungicide, insecticide, all on the seed. That helps a lot in our environment to ward off diseases. And,
why do you need insecticide to go on a seed that you planted a couple of weeks ago and now it's 20 degrees at night? There's no insect pressure. There's no worm pressure in 20-degree night type soil, I wouldn't think.
It's not going to be the insect pressure right now, but you can have wireworms, where wireworms can attack your seed.
Still in November.
Yes. And actually, we have seen what they are called bird cherry aphids. and they can attack in the fall. And if you do have the growth and they're down around the crown, and they can really hurt you. And probably 95% of wheat growers don't even know they exist because they haven't looked for them.
Yep.
And so there are times if we have the growth, we're out there applying insecticide to kill them right before freeze up. We've actually had to put our sprayers inside at night so we didn't freeze up and break the fittings, and then go out the next day and we're killing bird cherry-oat aphids on wheat in November. We've had to do that before. That's where scouting, knowing your crop, knowing your fields comes into play.
All right, so seed treatment, you just went through, you put a battery of stuff on your seed. It goes in the ground. Typically after soy, is it a different seed treatment if it's wheat following wheat?
No, we're running a seed treatment on all acres the same. It's very loaded up. We like it. And then we also add some biologicals to it to induce some triggers for phosphorus breakdown and just better rooting, And
the biologicals are a part of the seed treatment, or you go out and spray those on?
Nope, seed treatment. We actually set up our own seed treater. We have 2 cones, and one's biology with our own concoction, and one is chemistry, and then 2 lines, and it comes right into the treater and vaporizes at the last second and goes onto the wheat and then up into the truck.
What about the fall applications? Is there anything that gets applied in the fall? You said you've had it before where those aphid things you talked about. That was because of scouting. Is there anything you do as a normal practice in the fall?
If we would get enough growth, we would like to go out prior to dormancy, and depending on the year, especially wheat on wheat acres, we may even apply a fungicide into late October. Yep. We have seen tan spot come in late season in the fall, in a warmer fall, or we could be in there with insecticide. We could be in there with the PGR also, because really we look at wheat going in dormancy like a bear into hibernation. Do you ever see a bear going on a diet before he goes into hibernation?
Right. No.
Why do you want to do that with your wheat?
Yeah.
You want your wheat to be as good and as healthy and as fed as it can be going into that period, especially in our environment, because we could see 40, 50 wind chills. In the winter, we could see bare periods. We could see 3 foot of snow on it. We never know. It's going to be a little bit harsh. So we want it in good shape.
There's a person that would listen to this and say, yeah, but why throw all that out there when the plant is just about ready to go dormant? Why not wait until it is ready to pop again in the spring and then put that stuff out there?
You can do both.
Okay. So you don't think it's wasteful?
Tan spot's hurting you. I don't care if it's October or if it's April. It's going to hurt you. It's taking away. It's going to take away bushels from you.
What about the you do things different on your competitive acres to get your 138 bushels to be.
Nope. We do nothing different for any. We do not farm for 5 acres or for a contest. Everything we do is scalable for our whole operation.
So the 138 bushels that you did on your contest acres got the same treatment as everything else?
Yes. Mm-hmm. We don't farm for a contest. We farm to farm. It's all about field average and whole farm average. That's what drives us, and low cost per bushel inputs.
Okay, then we're telling us how to make money with wheat. We focused on the agronomics, and let's talk about the business. You talked about low-cost producer. There's somebody that's listening to this going to say, low-cost producer, you're putting a hell of a lot of stuff on there. You did all that seed treatment, all that fancy stuff. You did all that stuff. Sometimes you have to go out there and even do a application in November. And then in the spring, you're going to bump it again with fertility. Doesn't sound very low cost. Is it more just you're putting it at the right time? It's the old thing of you're tending it better. Is that where the thing comes in? Because some folks might just plant it and forget about it.
We're doing all those steps to prevent taking away bushels from the potential. And we're not, our goal isn't 50 bushel wheat. Our goal is to do a lot higher than that.
Yeah.
So that's where it comes down to, is we're trying to minimize or eliminate the things that are going to take away from yield and do it in a low cost manner. Even a fall pass, depending on the year, we can do that. It's very low cost. Insecticide, we can do a cheap fungicide We don't need a full spectrum one. PGR, very reasonable, reduced rate. It's a very minor pass. Actually, the cost of running the sprayer over it per acre is almost higher than what we're putting on.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the actual application isn't the bigger cost is in the machine and the time.
Mm-hmm.
What about then your thing that I like when we record? You talk about keep rounding the bases. Do you do something toward the end that makes you make money off of your wheat that others might say, screw it. You know what? It's a month away from the combines rolling.
We focus on it right through flowering. We're starting to play coming into actually into dough. If we can do something that's really unheard of in our area, even going past flowering, grain fill, and try to see if we can maximize anything for yield. We feel we're doing a pretty good job at it right now because we look at our test weights and protein. This year we were running 62 to 64 pound test weights, and we had good protein and we had yield. Yeah. So we feel we're doing a pretty good job. But thing is, it's keep rounding the bases. We're not giving up on our wheat, but we're not just throwing the kitchen sink at it. Mm-hmm. For years, we always had a yield contest at the Hefty Field Day, and we'd have a yield plot. And I did wheat for multiple years, and virtually about basically every year I would end up on top. But I never did the high cost approach. I just would switch things around, but every year it's trying to do a good job with what we had. They'd send me videos and pictures, soil test, tissue test, and I'd work off of that. If I didn't get my eyes on it, they would give me eyes. They'd give me pictures and video to work with. And then, like I said, soil test, tissue test. Brian, just to prove his point, every year he would do the kitchen sink approach. He would spare nothing. Mm-hmm. Brian would never end up with the high yield, but he'd end up with the highest cost per bushel.
Right.
So again, we're looking at how can we try to drive yield, but do it in an effective manner. And that's by staying with the needs of the plant throughout the stages.
You tissue sample, you say?
We do a little bit of it. The problem is that we have in our area is snail mail. A lot of times we cannot even get results back in 7 to 10 days. We look at the plant and kind of as the physiology of it, what's going to need at stages we know. We've done it long enough, and we're trying to stay ahead of that with what we need. And that might be some foliar nutrition and fungicides at the right time, a PGR or a growth regulator at the right time. Yep. It's looking ahead, seeing what you need.
Yeah. So tissue sampling is not the answer. Obviously, you do a lot of scouting. You got a lot of acres to cover. Do you go and do this yourself, or do you send out your guy and say, come back and tell me how the wheat looks?
I'm me, myself, and I. Mm-hmm. So
is Terry a crop scouter, or is
he's full-time in a planter, and then I'm in second planter, row crop planter, and then I'm scouting too.
Got it.
I do have one friend. I'll call him in every now and then when we get in around flag leaf. I'll pay him to go out and just check for observing for flag leaf, because I'm wanting to watch when flag leaf comes out and get ready for that if I'm in a planter. But otherwise, it's me, myself, and I.
How to make money with wheat is what we talked about. And let's talk about the selling game. You contract ahead and sell 50% of what you expected yield. Do you sell 75% of expected yield? Do you not even do that? Do you store the stuff? Is most of your stuff already sold before your combine even rolls? How do you handle that?
Man, Damian, you only threw out like 20 scenarios there.
I know, because you know what? You probably do a few of them.
We believe in managing our risk. We do a lot of hedging, and we will do puts, calls, spreads when we feel the market we can maximize or add to our price. Then really it comes down to we're looking at the quality of our crop, and that's when we start negotiating with terminals. And we want to be a premier provider for them. We want to have a good quality crop. And that's where this year that really paid for us. Once they saw the samples of what we had, they wanted it because they wanted to use our wheat to blend with other stuff that was not that good. So that's where that comes into play. So A lot of times
By the way,
we're
when
doing
it says not
things
that
on.
good, is that protein thing like we talked about before, where you bring in 15% protein wheat and they've got some 11 and they need to blend it together to make it 13 or something? I think that's what you told me.
Exactly. And same thing on test weight when they're
But
getting in
you make sure you get
58,
paid a premium.
when they're getting in 58-pound wheat and we've got 62, they want our 62.
But
So
you're not selling you're making sure that your 62-pound 15% protein wheat gets paid a premium.
we're going to leverage what we've got. That's why we're doing a lot more on paper, and then we're negotiating on the physical product is what we're doing.
So is
Try
that
to
how that works?
capture
So
any premium we can.
you let them sample it and you say, yeah, but we're not selling this for the price you got posted.
We sample it and then we give the same thing to them so they can see it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the good working relationships where they go, okay, you guys have got this. And then we have a lot of trucks that we can pull from, a guy that we work with a lot. And if we've got to move 200,000 or 400,000 in 30 days, we'll do it.
Yeah, but there's a negotiation between you and the
yes. If the opportunity is there to fill a train, we'll fill the train if it pays.
But you make sure that you don't just go and accept what the posted price is. We
don't bumble in the door and look lost. We come in to make a deal.
How to make money with wheat. We talked about the agronomics, talked about the practices, no-till, and some of those things, and then we just talked about the money side of it. What else do I need to know to the person listening to this that says, I want to make money with wheat? I want to be like Lee Lubbers. What do they need to know?
Know your wheat. Know your fields. The feek scale, that's how you scale your wheat. If you raise wheat, you should know that, have that imprinted in your mind, because that will dictate how you're going to manage for spraying and also manage for fertility and growth and disease and what's coming up next. And that's by knowing that feek scale and watching that, you're going to know what's happening in your wheat.
Got it. His name's Lee Lubbers, How to Make Money with Wheat. He's doing it. And he also is the South Dakota National Association of Wheat Growers contest winner for 2024 with 138.35 bushels per acre. That's pretty remarkable. And by the way, if you've never been to Gregory, South Dakota, everything this guy does is pretty remarkable because, for God's sakes, our friend Chad Henderson, when we talked about whose farm would you rather have in terms of ground, he said Lee doesn't even want Lee's farm ground. But anyway, he does actually have very good farm ground. It's neat up there, very rich, a lot of organic matter. It just sometimes it's kind of dry, and sometimes it's kind of cold, and occasionally it's really windy. Other than that, Gregory, South Dakota is a hell of a place to farm. If you want to check out more stuff with me and Lee, we recorded a bunch of different episodes about the business side of farming, about wheat, about rounding the bases. Go check it out at XtremeAg.farm. There's a library, if you will, of free content to help you farm better. Hundreds of episodes of this show, Cutting the Curve, which is doing very, very well, and also videos we shoot at these guys' farms that can help you improve your farming operation and get you bigger returns. So next time, thanks for being here, Lee. I'm Damian Mason. This is XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve.
That's a wrap for this episode of Cutting the Curve. Make sure to check out XtremeAg.farm for more great content to help you squeeze more profit out of your farming operation.